Все это остается актуальным, с той лишь разницей, что Украина теперь безвозвратно потеряла не только Крым, но и Донецкую и Луганскую народные республики, и Херсонскую и Запорожскую области, вошедшие в состав России. Соответственно, исправлять ситуацию нужно в тех регионах, которые пока еще остаются под контролем Киева. Наконец, необходимо, чтобы реализацией новых договоренностей занималась та власть, которая будет искренне в этом заинтересована и которая появится по итогам демократических выборов. Ну и последнее. Будущее Украины должна быть демилитаризованным нейтральным государством, не входящим ни в какие блоки и альянсы.
This is my video update on this Monday afternoon, February the 17th, coming to you from Athens, Greece. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off once again with Rubio and Lavrov heading to Saudi Arabia. Lavrov said that he is going to Saudi Arabia so that they can prepare for a possible big summit at the end of the month between Putin and Trump. And Lavrov said that Russia is very interested to sit down with the United States and listen to their ideas and their proposals, not only for Project Ukraine, but for everything, really, to reestablish good relations between the United States and Russia. Amazing times that we live in, huh? Amazing times. And the wolf, Steve Witkoff, the man who fixes everything for the Trump administration. Steve Witkoff was telling Fox News yesterday that he is going to be on a plane within hours to go to Saudi Arabia so that the Trump administration and the wolf can fix all of the damage done by the Biden White House and their catastrophic Project Ukraine venture. We have Russian officials who are actually talking about MasterCard and Visa back in Russia. Something big is happening. Something very, very big is happening. Much bigger than just Project Ukraine. MasterCard and Visa returning to Russia. That is what Russian officials are saying. And of course, this is freaking out the EU war party. They are in panic mode. According to Bloomberg, Trump wants some sort of a deal in place by Easter, by Pascha. I believe this year the Orthodox Easter and the Catholic Easter fall on the same day. But that's a pretty ambitious goal for the Trump administration. But the EU is in an absolute panic. The war party is meeting today, as I am recording this video. They are meeting in Paris to figure out what to do about Trump. How do they prevent this rapprochement between the United States and Russia? How do they stop the dialogue between Putin and Trump? All the big EU leaders, the European leaders actually, are going to be in Paris, are already in Paris, trying to figure out ways to sabotage peace. That's what they're doing. They are in Paris to figure out ways to sabotage peace, to prevent dialogue between Russia and the United States, to keep the war going in Ukraine, because if they keep the war going in Ukraine, then they keep the United States invested and bogged down in Europe, and that means the United States continues to funnel money into Europe. Money and power. This is what the European political elite are afraid of losing if there is some sort of a Ukraine deal, or even something bigger. Even something bigger. Good relations between Russia and the United States confirmed at this meeting in Paris. This sabotage war party meeting is Macron, the pirate Schultz, Stormer, Keir Stormer, 008, license to bore you. Keir Stormer is going to be there. Georgia Maloney, the Trojan horse. I call her the Trojan horse. She's the Trojan horse. That's right. She pretends to be a populist, but she's a globalist. And she has it good with Musk and with Trump. That's right. Georgia Maloney, the Trojan horse. Donald Tusk, Pedro Sanchez, Dick Schoff, Mette Frederiksen, Ursula van der Crazy, and Antonio Costa. You know who else is going to be at this meeting? NATO's Mark Rutte. Even the NATO chief, the CEO of NATO, is going to be at this meeting in Russia because it's important for his business, for NATO, to keep the war going in Ukraine, to keep the tensions high, to keep Russia and the United States fighting. Very important for NATO's bottom line, because their biggest revenue stream, their biggest customer is the United States. They do not want to lose the United States to any kind of peace in Europe, right? Existential for NATO. So Mark Rutte will be there, is there in Paris, as they all sit down, all of these EU, European globalist leaders sit down to try and figure out a way to derail the talks that will be taking place in Saudi Arabia. The Trump administration, they actually, according to Reuters, sent a questionnaire to the European leaders about Project Ukraine because, as everyone knows, they were not invited to Saudi Arabia. They weren't even told about Saudi Arabia. Not one EU leader, president, prime minister, commissioner was told about the Saudi talks. Zelensky was not invited to the talks. And what they got, according to Reuters, was a questionnaire from the United States. A questionnaire which asked them how many troops they believe they can commit to a peace in Ukraine, what kind of resources, money, etc. can they commit to a peace in Ukraine. That's what they were given. A freaking questionnaire. Unbelievable. Oh, man. Interesting times. Interesting times indeed. So 008, Keir Stormer, he wrote an article in The Telegraph, and Keir Stormer is talking about sending 25,000 British troops to Ukraine. His article in The Telegraph has the title, "Potentially Putting Britons in Harm's Way is a Huge Responsibility, but we must be ready to do our bit for Europe. Helping to guarantee Ukraine's security is helping to guarantee the security of our country and our continent." This is a sabotage tactic. This is a sabotage tactic from Stormer. He talks about sending 25,000 British troops to Ukraine if there's some sort of a peace deal between Trump and Putin. And this is being dressed up as the United Kingdom taking an active role in trying to keep the peace in Ukraine, but really what this is all about is sending a tripwire force to Ukraine, a force which Keir Starmer knows the Russians will never agree to, will not accept, and could act as a tripwire to pull all of NATO into a conflict with Russia. That is what Keir Starmer is doing. That is what he's hoping to do, as he writes this article in the Telegraph. 008, license to bore you. Keir Starmer. Nasty guy, very nasty. So the Telegraph, they also put out an article talking about how the Ukraine military was given all of these amazing, we're talking these amazing wonder weapons from NATO. And instead of utilizing these wonder weapons to defeat the Putin, they used these NATO wonder weapons in a Soviet style. That's right. They took the amazing NATO wonder weapons and they used them to fight like Soviets. And according to the Telegraph, this was a big no-no and a big waste of the amazing NATO wonder weapons. The Telegraph has an article with the title, NATO at odds with Ukraine over Soviet-style tactics. British defense sources have accused Zelensky's troops of wasting expensive weapons and equipment. In this article, the Telegraph says the Russian army probably has more javelins than the British army now, a British source said, adding that although he and his colleagues supported Ukraine's fight against Russia, the effort to support Kyiv was built around lies. Quite an admission from the Telegraph, huh? The whole thing was built around lies. The Russians now have more javelins, those javelins, the wonder weapons, javelins and javelinas. Remember what Biden said about the javelins? That Ukrainian couples, they were naming their kids Javelin and Javelina. Remember that speech from Biden? Well, according to the Telegraph, because Ukraine military, because they are retreating and they have retreated in so many areas, they've left the amazing NATO wonder weapons behind, not utilizing them correctly, utilizing them in a Soviet way, and the Russians, they have taken ownership of the NATO wonder weapons, including the javelins. And now they have so many javelins that they outnumber the javelins that the UK has in their inventory. Quite an admission from the Telegraph, huh? So let's talk about the Green Goblin. Let's talk about the Green Goblin. By the way, The Hill, they have an article with the title, "The Mad King of Kyiv, Why Zelensky Can't Afford to End the War." The Mad King of Kyiv. That's a pretty good nickname. Not a bad nickname, but I'm sorry, The Hill. I think the Green Goblin has got you beat. I think the Green Goblin is about as perfect a nickname as you can possibly get for Zelensky. But anyway, The Hill is calling him the Mad King. What does that tell you when The Hill, the DC insider publication The Hill, is calling Zelensky the Mad King of Kyiv? Zelensky's in trouble, man. He is in big time trouble. So he gave an interview to NBC News. I believe the show is Meet the Press. He gave the interview to the same journalist that he gave the interview to when Zelensky told, I think he said that Putin can F off, or he's a terrorist or something like that. Remember that interview about a year and a half ago that he gave to that journalist from Meet the Press? Well, she's back, and she's interviewing the Mad King the Mad King of Kiev. Excuse me. Yeah, she's interviewing the Mad King. It's actually not bad. I kind of like it. The Mad King of Kiev. And Zelensky, he's mad, all right. He was saying some crazy stuff. We're talking some real crazy stuff. Some stuff that's going to anger the Trump administration. He said in the interview that he's not going to agree to any type of deal or negotiation that Trump comes up with. That's pretty much what he said. He said if Trump is going to talk to Putin and they come up with any kind of deal, he's like, I'm not going to accept it. That's what Zelensky said. I'm just going to flat out not accept it. That was one thing that he said during the interview. He was asked about casualties, Ukraine casualties, and he doubled down on the 46,000 number, but he kind of messed it up. He messed it up. He was speaking in English, and he was talking about the casualties at 46,000, the total casualties, but he then said he's not quite sure, and you could tell that he was getting very nervous and panicky, and he lost his train of thought, and he switched gears to Ukrainian to try and explain this 46,000 number, and it was pretty much a train wreck as he was asked about the 46,000 casualty number that he claims the Ukraine military has suffered. He had a very hard time rationalizing that and explaining that number. He talked about the rare earth minerals, and he said that the rare earth minerals, they can be shared, the wealth of Ukraine. It can be shared with the United States, he said. It can be shared with Europe, with all our partners. We can share the wealth. And then he also said that the resources that are under the control of the Russians, of the Russian military, he said that the United States, they can help to remove the Russians, to fight the Russians, so that they can then gain control of even more mineral wealth. So you can see where Zelensky is moving towards, what his hopes are. He is hoping that if he gets to some sort of deal with the rare earth minerals, that he can position the deal in a way that will somehow force the United States into a conflict with Russia so that they can try to get hold of the resources which are in areas that are now part of the Russian Federation, according to Russia. We're talking about the 4 regions and Donbass, Zaporozhye, Kherson, Lugansk, and Donetsk. So Zelensky's trying to find a way to get the U.S. military to fight Russia. And then he made perhaps the most outrageous, crazy Zelensky claim that we've heard to date. Well, maybe not to date. Maybe in the last 24 hours, because Zelensky said some very crazy stuff. But the latest Zelensky crazy claim is that he knows from his intel, his super secret Budanov Android AI, SBU, intel sources, MI6 intel sources, that Putin is gathering a huge force, perhaps 150,000 soldiers. He's building an army of perhaps 150,000. And they are going to launch, possibly in the summer, possibly in the fall, an attack via Belarus into NATO. That's what Zelensky claims. That is what he told NBC News. Putin will launch invasion of NATO countries, Zelensky predicts. Zelensky sat down with NBC News' Meet the Press host Kristen Welker and talked about the current state of the Russia-Ukraine war, warning of the possibility that Putin could expand it to other countries. Zelensky told Welker, in Ukrainian, we know for sure that he is preparing steps on the territory of Belarus this year. It can happen in summer, maybe in the beginning, maybe in the end of summer. I don't know when he prepares it, but it will happen. He continued, there are risks that this can be Poland and Lithuania because we believe that Putin will wage war against NATO. So that's the warning from the Green Goblin to the Trump administration. The Putin is planning a war against NATO through Belarus. Maybe in the summer, maybe in the beginning of the summer, maybe at the end of the summer, maybe towards Poland, maybe towards Lithuania, maybe towards Latvia, maybe Paris, maybe London. Who knows? Who knows exactly where the Putin will strike? Who knows? My thinking is that Russia is preparing 150,000 North Korean soldiers that it is taking from Kursk, and they are redeploying these North Korean soldiers to Belarus, and they will be armed with the latest and greatest washing machine chip powered shovels directed towards the city of London. That is what the Putin is going to do. That is what my intel sources are telling me. So Trump, beware of what Putin is about to do. Shovels, washing machine powered shovels. They are very, very dangerous. So Trump was asked about this by a reporter about this claim from Zelensky that an attack against NATO is coming. And Trump said, yeah, I don't believe this. That's what Trump said, man.
Today that Russia is going to wage war on NATO. Do you agree with that? Do you have any concerns about?
No, I don't agree. I don't agree. Not even a little bit.
He's like, I don't buy any of this. Bam, plain and simple. Not buying any of it. It's not working. We are going to sit down with Russia in Saudi Arabia, and we're going to try to figure this out. Yeah, so that was the interview with Zelensky. And I said yesterday in my video update that you watch, Zelensky's going to probably show up to Saudi Arabia uninvited, and we are getting news that Zelensky is going to be in Saudi Arabia in a couple of days, though I think he is invited, but he's on a trip with Zelenskaya, his wife, and they were in the UAE, I believe today, and they are going to be in Saudi Arabia in a couple of days, and they're not going to be part of any negotiations between the United States and Russia, but they're going to Saudi Arabia, as I said in my video update yesterday, to talk about prisoner exchanges and stuff like that, reconstruction, I don't know, funding, all these kinds of things. But yeah, he's going to end up in Saudi Arabia. Oh, man. Macron, we are getting word that Macron is so nervous about the discussions that are going to take place between Russia and the United States that he's actually calling up MBS and asking MBS to keep an eye out for what the Americans and what the Russians are saying and to keep them informed. He's actually calling up MBS and telling MBS to keep Macron and France in the loop as to what is being discussed by the United States and Russia. That is how nervous Macron is with all of these developments. Mike Waltz, I believe, is going to be there, the NSA chief. He's going to be in Saudi Arabia, and he was giving an interview to Fox News, and he said that the United States wants money. They want money. They want to get their investment back from Ukraine.
The American people deserve to be recouped, deserve to have some type of payback for the billions that they have invested in this war. And then further, Shannon, I can't think of anything that would make the American people more comfortable with future investments than if we were able to be in a partnership and have the American people made whole. And I'll point out, much of the European aid is actually in the form of a loan that is repaid. It's repaid with interest on Russian assets. So, President Trump is rethinking the entire dynamic here. That has some people uncomfortable, but I think Zelensky would be very wise to enter into this agreement.
Who knows how all of this is going to go down? But, Russia and the United States, if they sit down together, I'm sure that they can come up with all kinds of different ideas as to how Trump can go back to the American people and say, you see, Biden, the incompetent Biden, lost you money. I'm telling you that I'm going to generate money. You could be looking at cooperation in energy and resources, in Nord Stream. Maybe the U.S., maybe they turn on Nord Stream again, and this time around the U.S. collects the transit fees. I don't know. I really don't know. But Waltz has made it very clear. We want money back. Yeah. J.D. Vance actually sat down with the AfD when he was in Munich. That really pissed off the pirate. And Mertz. And BlackRock Mertz. So a lot of stuff is going on. A lot of moving pieces. A lot of different things are happening. And it's all pointing to something big. Something even bigger than just solving the conflict in Ukraine. Something big happening between the United States and Russia. We'll see. It's going to be a very hard, difficult road ahead. And a lot of trust needs to be rebuilt between Russia and the United States. Even Witkoff, in his interview with Fox News, he said that the main goal for the United States is to rebuild trust with Russia. Poroshenko, he said that there are going to be elections. That's another piece to the puzzle that's going to happen with Project Ukraine. There are going to be elections, and Poroshenko said he has very good sources, which claim that there will be elections in Ukraine on October 26, 2025. He even put a date to it. Interesting statement from Poroshenko, who has been charged with treason and has been sanctioned by the Green Goblin, because Poroshenko is seen to be Zelensky's main competition. He is now saying that there will absolutely be elections in October 2025. And you know who the Russians are pulling for and could possibly be the next president of Ukraine as negotiations start up? Medvedchuk. Medvedchuk as president would solve a lot of problems that could come up with Project Ukraine as Russia negotiates with the United States. Medvedchuk could be the guy. So let's do some clown worlds, and we can wrap this video up. And in the first clown worlds for today, on this Monday, let's see here. What clown worlds do I have? The Munich Security Conference, the end of the Munich Security Conference. There was a speech from the chairman of Munich. And he broke down in tears, man. Yeah, the chairman of the MSC, the Munich Security Conference, as he was closing out the event, he started to cry. He's a grown man. There's a grown man on stage in front of all of these globalist, powerful globalist leaders. He broke down in tears. And the reason that he started to cry, at least it is believed that he started to cry because of J.D. Vance.
After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. I'm very grateful to all those European politicians that spoke out and reaffirmed the values and principles that they are defending. No one did this better than President Zelensky. It is my strong belief that this more multipolar world needs to be based on a single set of norms and principles, on the UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This order is easy to disrupt, it's easy to destroy, but it's much harder to rebuild. So let us stick to these values. Let us not reinvent them, but focus on strengthening their consistent application. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
So it looks like Vance's speech that he gave in Munich really took its toll on the chairman of the security conference. And these guys, these globalists, these European globalists, breaking down in tears, these are the people that want to take on Russia. One speech from Vance, one speech from J.D. Vance has them in tears. And they're talking about taking on the Russian Federation and going to war with the Russian Federation and removing the Putin. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. And there was also, for a final clown world, there was a 60 Minutes broadcast, a show, with one of the segments being on German hate speech. Hate speech in Germany. and they were interviewing the enforcers, the prosecutors of Germany's hate speech laws. And it was terrifying, man. Listening to these people was absolutely terrifying. During one of the segments, they were talking about how they arrest people who have broken Germany's hate speech laws, and how they confiscate their mobile devices. Usually the first offense before sending them to prison for hate speech, and hate speech could include reposting something on social media, liking something on social media. And before they send them to jail, the first offense includes a hefty fine and confiscation of your mobile device. And as the journalist for 60 Minutes was asking them, confiscation of the mobile device, that's got to really upset people. The hefty fine, okay, but you take away their mobile device. And these prosecutors or enforcers of Germany's hate speech laws, they just busted out laughing in just a terrible, psychotic laugh, taking enjoyment in the fact that they're arresting people and seizing their property and taking away their mobile phones because of a repost or a like on social media.
How do people react when you take their phones from them?
They are shocked. It's a kind of punishment if you lose your smartphone. It's even worse than the fine you have to pay.
Scary stuff, man. Really scary stuff. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, like what I'm wearing in this video update. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.